whole life. It's what I put in my music. It's about stories of young black males, individuals trying their best to escape the influences of the city.
Pushing into, just be you, don't, worry. I got the same, dirty Vans on. I'ma wear it till I get $1 million. You know what I mean? Like.
So we call it drill music.
Okay. Drill music. Okay, cool.
How you all hyped up and just
no doubt
ready to go crazy. Go crazy.
The early 10s was one of the most diverse times in hip-hop history. It's hard to name another era when so many different artists and so many different lanes were all seeing success. This period was also the foundation for a lot of the sounds we have in rap today. It was a transformative period for hip-hop, witnessing a diverse array of subgenres like cloud rap, drill, trap, and lyrical rap that pushed the boundaries of the genre's traditional sound. So in this video, we'll take a look into the landscape of the early 10s hip-hop to explore all these unique genres, as well as the key artists who helped to shape these movements. Down south, the early 10s was a pivotal time for trap music. Established artists like T.I., Jeezy, Gucci Mane, and Yo Gotti were still hot, and new stars were popping up left and right. Waka Flocka Flame dropped Flockavelli and became a superstar. 2 Chainz dropped True Religion and Based on a True Story and dominated the scene. Future dropped some of his early influential projects like Pluto, Honest, and Beast Mode. Mainstream hits like Type Away and Flex took Rich Homie Quan to a superstar level, and Young Thug and the Migos dropped some of the earliest hits of their careers that would get them their first major looks in hip-hop. Producers like Lex Luger, Southside, Mike Will Made It, Sunny Digital, TM88, Honorable Sino, Metro Boomin, and others were shaping the sound, and the orchestral instruments, programmed hi-hat rolls, boom and spins 808s, and other elements these producers were using were starting to become popular outside of hip-hop. Genres like pop and R&B were beginning to incorporate these trap elements into songs, and some of the biggest pop stars in the world began collabing with rappers. This was a very defining time in rap because artists like Future, Young Thug, and the Migos were establishing the direction rap was going, popularizing trends like melodies and the triplet flow, which would become standard in the following years.
I would share it, but today I'm feeling straight don't kill my vibe. Straight don't kill my vibe. Straight don't kill my vibe.
In the 2000s, lyricism saw a significant decline, but in the early 10s, it came back stronger than ever. J. Cole began his buzz in the underground in the late 2000s, releasing classic mixtapes like The Come Up and The Warm Up, earning him a deal with Roc Nation, and in the early 10s he dropped Friday Night Lights, Sideline Story, and Born Sinner, projects that were able to produce mainstream radio hits without sacrificing the art or lyricism for the most part. By the time he dropped 2014 Forest Hills Drive, he was a certified first ballot Hall of Famer and in GOAT discussions. Kendrick Lamar followed a similar trajectory with his overly dedicated and Section 80 projects, earning him some initial attention before he dropped Good Kid, Mad City and To Pimp a Butterfly, getting critical acclaim, radio hits, and superstar status. His fellow TDE label mate, Schoolboy Q, followed a similar trajectory. He dropped some early mixtapes to build his name, and his debut album, Oxymoron, blew up and led him to commercial success. Similarly to Cole, Kendrick, and Q, Chance the Rapper would also release mixtapes early on, building a huge buzz, but he wouldn't reach his full potential until the mid-10s. Other artists like Wale, Big Krit, and Joey Badass would also take the mixtape route to build an early following. Wale and Krit got signed to a major, but Joey chose to stay independent. They would all release good music, seeing varying levels of success, but never reached the level of people like Kendrick and Cole. Big Sean didn't go the internet route. He got the chance of a lifetime when he ran into Kanye and had the opportunity to rap for him and earn a deal on Kanye's Good Music label. Albums like Finally Famous and Dark Sky Paradise would establish him as one of the biggest artists of this era. Lastly, artists like Hopsin and Odd Future demonstrated the influence of Eminem in his run through the 2000s. Hopsin blew up off the lyrical miracle style of rapping and out-of-pocket statements that made fans love Eminem. He also went at basically every artist in the game, using controversy to generate attention. Odd Future also took heavy influence from Eminem, as well as MF Doom, and as a result, their music consisted of intricate rhyme schemes and saying the wildest things possible on records, taking pride in being weird and different. Tyler the Creator was the breakout star, and broke onto the scene with projects like Bastard and Goblin. Earl Sweatshirt also became one of the more prominent members in the group, dropping Earl and Doris, making a good argument that he was the most talented when it came to straight rapping ability. Earl also helped to introduce Vince Staples, a Long Beach artist with a different style from Odd Future who wasn't a member but collaborated frequently with Earl. Frank Ocean was the third major artist out of the collective, and he quickly set himself apart and built his own fanatic following with his Channel Orange project. As a collective, Odd Future was able to build a huge following and reach the highest level of influence. They had teenagers everywhere wearing colorful Odd Future merch and Supreme. Overall, the 10s was a great period for lyricism and was the last time a large amount of these artists could see the highest levels of success making this type of music.
I might be too strung out on compliments, overdosed on confidence, started not to give up and stop fearing the consequence.
By the early 10s, Lil Wayne was the biggest rapper on the planet, so by extension, any artist he introduced would automatically get attention, and he leveraged this to launch Young Money. Drake was obviously the biggest. He released projects like So Far Gone, Take Care, and Nothing Was the Same, and proved that he could make records for the club, records for the ladies, and records for the hip-hop heads. He dominated radio, becoming a generational star just like Wayne. Alongside Drake, Nicki Minaj proved her rapping and hit-making ability, dropping a ton of huge records and big albums, establishing herself as the queen. Tyga didn't have the impact of Drake and Nicki, but he established himself as a solid artist who could produce big records from time to time. As the years passed, Lil Wayne strayed away from the level he was at in his prime, but remained a huge artist, still capable of making Billboard hits on a consistent basis. As a collective, Young Money basically ran the mainstream during the early 10s, and it was impossible to go anywhere without hearing their songs. Alongside Young Money, Rick Ross was also at the top of his career, appearing on hit after hit, some of the most successful being his collabs with Drake and Wayne. While at the top of his career, Rick Ross helped to introduce Meek Mill to the mainstream. Meek had built a crazy buzz in the streets off his early mixtapes, but the 10s skyrocketed his career. His debut album, Dreams and Nightmares, and the title track took him to another level, and throughout this era, he continued to produce big records. DJ Khaled built his brand and relationships through the 2000s, so by the early 10s, all he had to do was hit up artists like Drake, Wayne, Ross, and Meek to put songs together, and they would instantly go crazy. So through the 10s, he orchestrated tons of huge records, and it was impossible to listen to the radio without hearing the words, "We the best music." Khaled's main artist during this era was Ace Hood, and he was also on fire at the time with huge records like Hustle Hard and Bugatti. All of these artists, as well as Atlanta artists like T.I., Future, Waka Flocka, and 2 Chainz, and lyrical artists like J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar, made up the majority of mainstream hip-hop during this period.
These bitches love souls, oh, and I know it. Fucking with them old boys, you gon' get fucked up.
Drill popped off in 2012 when Chief Keef dropped Don't Like. He followed this up with Love Sosa and his debut album, Finally Rich. And by late 2012, he was a megastar with fans on different continents. Lil Durk followed this success, dropping This Ain't What You Want, a huge record that took his fame to the next level and established him as the second latest artist in the city. The whole world was tuning into the new scene, and as a result, other drill artists like Lil Reese and Fredo Santana had a ton of buzz from being around Keef and Durk and collaborating with them on songs frequently. They also had rivals like FBG Duck, Lil J, and Lil Jojo. Lil Jojo's BDK record really kicked things off on the drill scene, and all of these rival rappers would grow followings of their own while also trading disses back and forth with the Poppin' 300 artists. Meanwhile, around the corner, G Herbo and Lil Bibby started a wave of their own after they blew up off a song called Kill Sh that took advantage of all the new attention on the drill scene. After this song, they continued dropping consistently, building their buzz, and later released their respective debut projects, Free Crack and Welcome to Fazoland, stamping themselves as two of the most skilled coming out of the movement. Similarly, LA Capone and Rondo No. 9 started a wave of their own with songs like Play for Keeps and Shooters, but unfortunately, both of their careers would end up being cut short before they could really take off and hit their full potential. Young Pappy came up on the other side of the city, but he also developed the crazy buzz during the end of the early 10s era before meeting an untimely demise of his own. Producers like DJ L, DJ Ken, Young Chop, and Chop Squad DJ were some of the main producers cooking up the menacing, hard-hitting sound to match the vibe of what the rappers were talking about. This new form of trap took gangster rap to another level and brought a new, dark energy hip-hop had never seen before that youth across the country were drawn to. Drill would change things forever, setting trends like flashing straps in music videos, dissing enemies, smoking dead ops, referencing real situations in music, and using lingo like op, thought, and lacking. This early 10s era of drill would end up becoming an unforgettable part of this period of hip-hop. In the early 10s, Kendrick Lamar, Tyler the Creator, and Tyga all became mainstream names, but as far as rappers heavily associated with LA and South Central street culture, there were a different set of rappers LA natives really resonated with at this time. At the beginning of the 10s, J-Rock was on fire. He had begun heating up in the late 2000s, and by 2010, he had multiple big songs doing numbers and earned a spot on the XXL freshman cover. Nipsey Hussle was also on this 2010 XXL freshman cover, and just like J-Rock, he was a West Coast artist who really had the streets of LA behind him in his early 10s era. It was during this period that he dropped mixtapes like Marathon, The Marathon Continues, and Crenshaw. He was also making business moves a lot of rappers weren't on, like his $100 mixtape that made him $100,000 in his brick and mortar store that he opened in his home neighborhood of Crenshaw. The last rapper from this era with heavy support from the streets was YG. YG started taking off with the record called Tooted and Booted that saw major success in LA. From this record, he signed and continued dropping huge songs like My and Who Do You Love, and his classic album My Crazy Life. And all of this would translate into him becoming a mainstream star. DJ Mustard was the main producer behind these records, and together he and YG were defining the new sound of the West Coast.
Every day I think about the money. Let's go. What am I gonna do with all this money?
There are several artists from this time period who didn't fit into any particular genre of hip-hop and chose to make their own lane instead. The biggest example of this is Lil B. He took a very low-effort approach to making music, saying basically anything on songs and just having fun. He was also early when it came to realizing the importance of ad-libs. His approach to making music would inspire an entire generation of new artists to take this new approach to music, and the sound of hip-hop would reflect it. Lil B is also credited with being an early pioneer of cloud rap, a style of hip-hop characterized by its dreamy and atmospheric production. Clams Casino is the producer most widely credited for helping to pioneer this type of production, and Lil B's Six Kiss mixtape in 2009, produced by Clams Casino, was one of the defining projects in the genre, establishing the new sound. Cloud rap never became a big genre the way others like drill and trap did. It was used more like a tool for artists who were exploring different types of sounds, similar to what Lil B was doing. A$AP Rocky was another big artist who embraced cloud rap early on. In 2011, he worked with Clams Casino, who produced several songs on his Live Love A$AP mixtape that blew him up in the hip-hop world. In addition to cloud rap, Rocky also drew heavy influence from the Houston sound, as well as Bone Thugs and Harmony's rapping style. He was combining all these elements to form his own unique lane in the rap world. Alongside A$AP Rocky, A$AP Ferg also had a wave of his own, gravitating more to the trap sound, dropping huge hits like Shaba and Work. Down in Florida, an artist called Space Ghost Perp was doing something similar to what Rocky was doing with the Houston sound and cloud rap. Perp's music drew heavy influence from the 90s Memphis sound, but also incorporated cloud rap in certain songs. Space Ghost Perp formed a collective called Raider Clan, and together they would push the new wave, inviting some of the best new talent in this lane to join, including names like Denzel Curry, Young Simi, Chris Travis, and Xavier Wolf. Space Ghost Perp would end up going to New York and working with A$AP Mob, but he would also end up falling out with them. This trend would repeat, and he would end up falling out with Raider Clan as well, and become somewhat of an outcast in the rap world. Over in Pittsburgh, Wiz Khalifa and Mac Miller both began to see their careers take off in the beginning of the 10s, differentiating themselves from anyone else out. They had unique styles, but were both similar in the fact that they had laid back, chill, carefree approaches to making music. Mac was more on the lyrical and artistic side, while Wiz was able to produce huge commercial hits that turned him into a superstar. Both rappers achieved a lot of success and were very impactful on the rap genre moving forward. Down in Louisiana, Currency was on a similar wave to Wiz, making vibey stoner music, and the two of them collaborated frequently during this era, becoming a dynamic duo. Coming out of Gary, Indiana, Freddie Gibbs established himself with a unique style, influenced by Bone Thugs and Harmony, making gangsta music with a lyrical touch, reminiscent of the 90s and 2000s. Down in South Carolina, Speaker Knockerz was also seeing success on his own wave. He started as a producer, but began releasing songs of his own that the fans were receptive to, leading him to taking rap just as seriously as producing. Speaker Knockerz had a melodic approach to music that was extremely unique at the time, and definitely helped to pioneer the melodic wave that has become popular in the current era of rap. Some even say he's the true originator of the entire style. However, he passed at the young age of 19 in 2014, extremely early into his career, and was never able to achieve his full potential. Overall, this era was a unique time where artists in all different types of lanes were all seeing tons of success. All of these artists were pulling the sound in different directions, but trap was the most dominant. Trap production would take over everything, and the style of artists like Future and Young Thug spread across the country. Drill also set a lot of trends. Countless artists in the later 10s looked up to people like Chief Keef and G Herbo, and Chicago started the wave in the UK that would create the sound Brooklyn drill popularized in 2019 with the rise of Pop Smoke. Lil B arguably played as big of a role, influencing the trends as artists like Chief Keef, Young Thug, and Future, and his influence is also clearly visible on a lot of big artists who followed in later years. If you break down the SoundCloud movement from 2016 to 2018, It was really just a mix of Lil B's low effort, carefree lyrics, and heavy ad-lib use, the flow and delivery of mid-tens trap artists like Future and Young Thug, Speaker Knockerz' early approach to melodies, and Space Ghost Perp and the Memphis-influenced sound of Raider Clan. A unique blend of all these various styles led to the new styles of people like Lil Uzi, Playboi Carti, Lil Yachty, XXXTentacion, and many more. The early 10s era had plenty of commercially successful lyricists like Cole, Kendrick, Big Sean, Tyler the Creator, and Earl Sweatshirt, but lyricism would not remain in the mainstream, and despite Kendrick, Cole, and Drake becoming the biggest rappers in the world, lyricism as a whole faded to the underground as the majority of newer artists embraced other styles. Overall, the early years of the 10s were extremely diverse and innovative. This was a great time for fans of all different genres of hip-hop who will always remember and reminisce.